Love Peak Frean Fruit Creme cookies and wanted to try to make them at home. And here is the end result.
Let's see what's cooking. Let's get the facts. Let's see what's cooking. It's time for Yo-Yo Max 12.
Now for the cookie part of this recipe, I'm using a vanilla cutout cookie recipe that is non-spreading. It's an awesome recipe. That is a cup of butter, 1 cup of sugar, and then you're gonna blend those things together until they are, say it with me, light and fluffy. Then add in 2 large eggs and blend those in. The recipe calls for a teaspoon of vanilla extract and a teaspoon of vanilla bean paste. I use a teaspoon of vanilla extract and a teaspoon of ground vanilla, or if you don't have those things, just add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Then blend in 1/4 cup of cornstarch, and this is going to give them a really nice crumbly texture. Once that's beaten in, you start to add in some flour. You add in 4 cups of all-purpose flour, a little bit at a time. You'll also add in 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt if you used unsalted butter to start with. Now, if your mixer can't handle this, you may have to add in the last bit of flour with a wooden spoon. And then I turned it out onto the countertop, and I just kneaded a little bit just to bring it all together and smooth it out a bit. If your dough is sticky, then put it in the fridge and let it chill a little bit until it's workable. Mine was fine just out of the mixing bowl. And then you need to roll it out into 1/4 inch thickness. I cut that big bowl up into thirds, and I just did a third at a time. If your rolling pin sticks, then just throw on a sheet of parchment paper over top and then roll it out. Now you need to cut out your cookies. You're going to cut out 2 kinds. You're going to cut out the bases that are just plain, and then you're going to cut out the tops that are going to have a hole in the middle. Now you can use Linzer cookie cutters for this if you have them. What I did is I used a little kind of a scalloped edge round cookie cutter, and then I used a smaller cookie cutter to cut a hole out in the middle. Now I popped out those little center pieces, just picking them up with a little butter knife. If you're having trouble transferring your circles onto your cookie sheet because they're too soft, put this on a cookie sheet and put it in the refrigerator or the freezer until they firm up, and it's going to be a lot easier to transfer if you're having problems. Now each finished cookie has a top and a bottom, so make sure you have equal numbers of plain and ones with holes cut out in them before you put them in the oven so that you don't have any stragglers. Now, the center part of these cookies, if you've ever had a Peak Frean Fruit Creme, you'll notice that the center is jam-like, but it's also really gummy-like. Like it's really stretchy and thick and gummy. So I said, why not use Gummy Bears for this? So I bought a bag of Gummy Bears, and I'm just using a clean pair of kitchen scissors to cut them up into small pieces. Now, originally I was going to do all red because Peak Frean Fruit Cremes are red, but because I was making these around Christmas time, I thought, why not use all the other colors and make some really nice festive fruity cream cookies? So I had red, I had yellow, green, and also orange. And the green ones are kind of lime flavored, the orange ones were orange flavored. The yellow ones, I believe, are kind of a pineapple flavor, and the red ones were kind of a cherry. Now, here are the cookies out of the oven. These baked in my oven for about 15 minutes because there was a silicone mat on an insulated cookie sheet. If you're using a plain cookie sheet with parchment, may only take you maybe 9 minutes. You just want them a tiny bit light brown on the bottom and the edges. Now, these cookies are still hot out of the oven. While they're still hot, you're going to take your gummy bear pieces and you're going to fill up the center. Now, because I cut up the gummy bears into small pieces, they melt a lot easier and a lot faster. And you're going to see here, I'm going to start fast forwarding this. You will see as I'm filling these up, the gummy bears that are there are going to start to melt with just the heat of the cookie sheet and the cookies. And you'll watch them melt here. Now, when you get to the end of your filling, if you realize that some of the gummy bears have not melted, just put it back in the oven for about a minute or 2. Watch them carefully. Take it out as soon as they're melted. If you leave it in too long, the gummy bears will start to bubble up and will go over top of your cookies and they won't be as pretty. So you can see how they've melted before your eyes. Now, before the gummy bears are completely solidified again, I sprinkled mine with some coarse sugar because the Peak Freans in the commercially available fruit cream ones, that's what they do. They put this coarse sugar on them. I used white coarse sugar, but you could use a corresponding colored sugar if you'd like green sugar for the green ones and so on. Then you'll let these cool completely. And while you're waiting, you can make your custard cream filling. Now, if you notice the Peak Frean cookies, the filling is not white like an Oreo cookie. It's more of a kind of a yellowish color. So what I did is I put 3/4 of a cup of butter in that bowl with 1 heaping tablespoon of Bird's custard powder to get that yellow color and the custard flavor. And then add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract and 2 2/3 cups of powdered sugar. Now, for those of you that have been baking for a while, you're like, hey, Tammy, that bowl is too small. And yeah, I probably should have realized that myself, because when I started blending, I ended up with a little powdered sugar snowstorm. Yep, clean up in aisle 2. Okay, take 2, bigger bowl. You're gonna blend those things together. It's gonna look kind of dry. I just blend it until it's nice and crumbly and then there's no big pieces of butter left. And then to make it creamy, we're gonna add a little bit of milk or cream at a time and blend after each addition, like say a half a teaspoon or so at a time, until you get something that looks like a filling for a cookie that you can spread easily. I added about a tablespoon or so of cream to mine to get this texture, but just go a little at a time. And once it's nicely blended, we're ready to assemble our cookies. So these are the bases that are done, and I flipped them all over, and then I put my filling in a piping bag just because it's easier with a round, open round tip, and I just piped it in a little bit in the middle. And then all you have to do is top it with the fancy cookie, press down a little bit, and there you go. Kind of, sort of, not really Peak Frean copycat recipe. The red ones taste a little bit more like the Peak Freans because it's kind of a strawberry kind of a flavor. And they are nice and stretchy when you bite into them, just like a regular Peak Frean cookie. They look awesome all together in a group with all of those lovely colors. These are excellent cookies for Christmas time, and I think you're going to love them. Give them a try. Now, if you're looking for a similar fancy cookie for a Christmas platter, try these Linzer cookies. They have a jam filling instead of a custard cream.